Welcome.
Welcome to you. How's
Welcome.
my lighting? All right?
Lighting's beautiful. Love it.
Good.
All right. Welcome to the Art and Hustle Podcast, Gallery of Conversations. Welcome back here to our 14th Hawaiian shirt wearing Captain Schiavo. So welcome and tell us about your shirt today.
Well, this one, I don't, here, let me see it a little better. This one is silk, okay? It's silk. And I got it. I seem to recall that this one, I got it on the big island of Hawaii because they have all
Mm-hmm.
these different islands. And I've hit almost, I really have hit all of them, the big island, Maui, Kauai, Oahu. So, yeah, and I happen to like this shirt. It's silk. It's not like the rayon ones I have. This is
Yeah.
my one of my going out to dinner aloha shirts.
Ah, so this is your fancy Hawaiian
Well,
shirt.
any of the ones I have that are silk. I mean, and I have a lot of them from Hawaii. I also
Mm-hmm.
have a bunch of Tommy Bahama silk shirts,
Mm-hmm.
and flowered shirts. So I have an array of them from different designers,
Mm-hmm.
and Hawaii, like certain designers are really big time, and
Yeah.
I've forgotten their names now because I'm not there all the time.
Which
I have
ones
to,
are
I have,
more expensive?
huh?
Which ones are like, if you were to sell them, which ones are more expensive?
Well, these are all since they're not classics in the sense that they're not from the 40s, let's say,
Mm,
okay, like just after World War II,
yeah.
maybe even before, these are all modern patterns, but most of the patterns are copyrighted. Okay, so in other
Oh.
words, they're special. You'd appreciate this from the clothing designer point of view. There's a not
Mhm,
so
mhm.
that a certain company when they come up with the design, they patent it, and that's the deal.
Yeah.
So so yeah, so this has got I think this has pineapples on it, stuff like that.
Oh, I love it.
Thank you.
So today is a follow-up. I'm excited to tell everybody that I got a tour of your garden and was able to meet your wife. And so today's podcast is going to be about your lovely Zen garden that I was had the honor of visiting. So when did you start your garden?
Well, that really what you saw was started. I'm trying to think. Really, I retired in 2000.
Hmm.
Okay, so the big pond in the backyard. Okay, with the water, it's got a 45-foot stream and waterfall and all that stuff, and has lots of cool plants around it. That one was built so that it would be ready for me in June of 2000. Okay, my
Oh,
birthday is also in June, so it was a combination birthday slash retirement gift to myself. Okay.
oh, that's awesome. So you started before you were about to retire.
Right, and I had it ready so this way, once I retired, I could sit on my deck and watch the fish and
Yeah.
drink margaritas and things like
That's a
that.
great plan. Then you have like something like a new hobby to work
Well,
on.
I'll tell you too. Now, at the time, I still had my boat. Okay,
Mhm, mhm.
so I was still boating and fishing a lot. But when I was home, I was saying, okay, I'm going to hang out and everything else. Once my body said it was time to sell my boat,
Mhm.
Uh, so I have to remember I was 55 when I retired. So and I kept my boat until another decade or more into my 60s. Okay,
Okay.
and then what happens to a lot of guys who fish a lot as much as I did in boating, especially like I was also taking charters occasionally. Okay, is that your body after a while says, you know what, you can't do this anymore. It hurts too much. Like so,
Mm,
when I used to go shark and tuna fishing on my boat.
mhm.
I used to go offshore with friends, whatever. It would take me a whole day after to kind of recuperate from the. Because
That's
remember,
what happens to me now.
yeah, but here's what happened. As I got older, okay, I mean,
Mhm,
because remember, the boat's constantly rocking and stuff. Now,
mhm, mhm.
so even though if it's a glassy day on the ocean, it's going to heave a little bit. And then even in the bays, there's always a little bit of chop. The boat is not stationary. So now
Mhm,
your body is automatically, unconsciously trying to balance itself. Okay.
mhm.
Okay, so now so that's one thing. Plus the fact when it gets really rocky, you're banging it, the body's banging into the gunnels and things like that. So most of the guys I knew, especially the guys I knew who charted, like in my marina and other places on Long Island, once they got to be their mid 60s, they said, "Okay, love this, I love it, but you know what? I can't do this anymore." You know, I remember one of the great shark fishermen out in Montauk, Frank Mundus. He he's after a while he sold his boat. He just said enough, and then he moved to Hawaii. You know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I mean the fact is that the human body can take almost so much. Now I just did as you came out on this past Saturday, and then
Saturday.
and yeah, and the next day I had the National Garden Conservancy Open Tour Day. It was my date for that tour, and what they
Mhm.
do is National Garden Conservancy. They ask gardeners to open up their gardens across the country
Wow.
and they charge now. I think they're charging $10 for non-members, $5 for members of the Garden Conservancy. So and they raise the money. It's a charity, so they raise the money so they can improve and develop gardens around the country. Okay,
Oh, that's
for
so nice.
yeah, for the public. And yeah, I mean it really is nice. So and I never realized until I had everything finished. I There was a woman we know who was really into gardening. She goes, "Hey, you guys, this garden is special. This is really different, and you should really, show it." So I've had every year I've got different garden clubs from around Long Island. They'll come out and visit and take a look. And what's remarkable about this garden is that there's no lawn whatsoever, no grass. My line is I'm not going to mow it if I can't smoke it. If I can't smoke it, forget that. Okay. Not that I'm a big, weed guy, but still and all. So, I guess from the time I was a kid, I just, I always resented having to mow the lawn because
Mm.
my father would always say to me, okay, when he was home on the weekends, for example, he would say, well, okay, I want you to mow the lawn today. Well, invariably on a Saturday or Sunday, okay, the surf was up and I didn't want to. I said, look,
Oh.
I'm leaving. I'm not mowing that lawn. I'll do it when I come home, but I'm not mowing that lawn now.
Mhm.
So it was always a bit of a tussle. So
Yeah, yeah. It
uh,
was always contentious issue.
yeah, I mean, but also I just think lawns are stupid, frankly. Okay, and I'll tell you why. First
Yeah.
of all, people don't realize. I was saying to some of the garden guests on Sunday. There was the New York Times did an article a couple of years ago about uh, just this thing about why people have lawns, and people in Manhattan, some of the rich people in Manhattan, many, many, many decades ago, they were trying to copy to a certain degree uh, the nobility in England, who had these big
Oh.
mansions and big, lots of grass all over the place. And unfortunately, it's one of the worst things you can do, really, because first of all, they're high maintenance. Number one, you use way too many chemicals to keep them green. You use
Mhm.
way too much water, and you know that's I'm really totally against that. Okay,
It's not
so,
eco-friendly.
well, that's my point. It's not eco-friendly at all, really. Okay, and plus, all of I'm the only home in this neighborhood, and it's a nice neighborhood. Okay, and we're on over an acre of property, and we have no lawn. Everybody else around me, it's a typical suburban home. Who's got a pool? Who's
Mhm.
got uh? That's me. Who's got
I think that's the same sound on my phone.
No, it's my phone. Yeah, somebody. In fact, oh, he must be sending me all kinds of pictures. He's a friend of mine, an old fishing buddy of mine who's down in Florida.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I digress. So the fact is that uh, you know, at this house, I use almost no water because I have such my I have it's mostly it's woods front and back, and then
Uh-huh.
the shrubs that I have
Yeah.
been here for many, like my big rhododendrons. They were put in this house. This house was built in the early 70s.
Mhm.
We bought it in the mid 80s. Okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
and so a lot of the big shrubs are very well established. They don't need as much water, really.
Because
Okay,
their roots are probably deeper.
could be, and also there's also enough shade around them there that the heat isn't excruciatingly,
Yeah.
searingly hot, right?
Yeah.
So now, of course, but when we moved in, it was one of the like a typical suburban home. It had all kinds of fussy flower beds and herb beds, and then it had and then around the house was grass all around. I have a situation here where I use no chemicals for a lawn. My shrubs get fertilized. I guess once a year, twice a year. But they do is they don't spray stuff. What they do is it's a big hose, and they pump it into the roots. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that's cool, you know. And but again, this is a much more low maintenance property. I have a lot of shrubs that don't necessarily have to be pruned all the time,
Hmm.
every once in a while. So the whole idea, and of course the whole idea of this place, I've got four ponds, two, uh, one large one, and the other ones are small. I've got two streams, 45 feet and 75 feet,
Hmm.
and it's heavily wooded. And so here's what happens: my shrubs are mostly deer resistant, and that's how we changed the house over. What we did was, um, shortly after 2000, I slowly but surely changed the landscaping. I did a lot of work myself when I was still, my body was still, strong enough to do it.
Hmm.
And I took all the beds out, and there were berms that were terraced. I took all the terracing out, made it back, put it back to its natural contours, okay? And
Hmm.
then what happened was, as the back pond was put in, then the second, then the front pond was put in, and
Hmm.
then I had a bubble up pond up by the front curb, and then I did a meditation one on the other side of the
So
opposite.
was your terrain the way it was, where you can be able to put your pond 70 feet high?
Well,
And
yeah, here was the point. We had this property was very hilly,
okay,
okay?
that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah,
Was it
and
already hilly?
yeah, and so I said to the guy, finally, I was going to build the first pond myself, and I realized, man, I'm in between my back issues and others. I said, okay, I'm going to have to farm this out. I had a vision, and I was looking for a landscape guy who wouldn't do what he wanted to do, but would do what I wanted him to do. Okay,
Hmm.
because some guys they're so used to doing a lot of these landscapers are what they call mow and blow guys, where they used to doing lawns. They
Oh,
mow, yeah,
so
they
low.
yeah, they cut lawns mostly, and
Hmm.
they blow off the debris, yeah, things like that. But I needed some really like landscape architect kind of person, okay, which I got. And the great news was that he happened to be a guy who, like me, had a very Asian kind of a Zen, type of view of what a
Yeah.
landscape should be, what a garden should be. And so he had to do some, he had to put it up some like stone walls and things like that. And what I loved about him was I used to watch him. He'd pick up a stone, and he'd he'd look at it and he'd flip it over side to side, and he'd just really get into it. And he saw
It's like
looked
an
at
artist.
yes, and looked at the spot where he was intending to put it. And sometimes he might take a little chisel and chisel off a piece, whatever. I mean, it was really he was like a little old Japanese guy, making making these. He was great,
Mhm.
and so also too. And I said,
Was he Asian?
no, he wasn't, not at all. In
Oh.
fact, no, he was. I forget his background, but anyway, but also I said, look, you see how I have these berms, these little like hilly things in the front of the house, the back of the house.
Mhm.
When you put these ponds and streams in, don't change the contour of the property. Don't take stuff away. Don't flatten it out. Don't build it up. Whatever the natural contours of my property
Mhm.
is, I want you to maintain that. And the whole notion was, like as a Boy Scout, uh, going through the woods, you'd see these little springs, pure cold water, just crystal clear, cold, was oddly cold. And from those springs, streams would start to form in certain spots.
Mhm.
So my streams all have at the top, if you go to them, what I call the headwaters, really, okay, you will go up there and you'll see what looks like a spring, like
Mhm.
that you would find in the woods, and the water is pouring out over the rim of that spring, okay, and now it's trickling down, into the waterfall below. So people come to this house, this home, uh, and they just are astonished by what they see. Because remember that every other place, pretty much around on Long Island, these homes don't have this kind of stuff. They all have
Yeah, it's
lawns.
like all manicured and
Yeah, yeah, that's another point. So I'm glad you said that. I don't. My place is not manicured in the sense
yeah.
that, oh, I've got shrubs in certain places, and they go and they're distinct and everything else. I've got beds where there are shrubs, like I've got
Mhm.
my favorite are Korean boxwoods. They're low. They spread out horizontally. They're not
Mhm.
vertical. and they cover up a lot of ground, and as a consequence, I don't have a lot of weeds
Is
here.
that near your shed area in the back there?
Mostly in my around the back pond and in the front. Actually, the whole back of the house, the back berm and the front beds, before you get to the woods, those all have a lot of Korean boxwoods.
Mhm.
And what I love about them is they're evergreen. Okay, they spread out so you don't get weeds. And then the big issue for where we live on the North Shore of Long Island is deer don't eat them. See, and
Mhm.
that's another thing. I changed this property over so that I had mostly deer resistant plants.
Mhm.
Now, people say, well, when deer are hungry, they'll eat anything. Yeah, but you know what? I used to tell that to my high school students. I used to talk about whatever novel we were doing. I said, you know what? If we ever wind up on a desert island, okay, and we're all starving, trust me when I tell you, you're going to be my lunch. You're going to be my lunch. I'm eating you, I have no doubt, because I'm so hungry.
Survival of the fittest.
Yeah, I'll eat anything. When human beings will eat anything when they're starving, any animal when they're starving will go after anything, right? So, but the deer here, I have these any kind of boxwoods. There are all different kinds. There are vertical ones like English boxwoods. There are horizontal ones like the Korean boxwoods. I have all kinds of what they call andromedas. And by the way, the andromedas show color. They show white flowers. They show
Mhm.
red leaves. I've got what they call mountain fires. And all of my plants, almost, I would say easily, 85% of my shrubs are deer resistant. The deer don't touch them. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't touch hellebore. Hellebore is poisonous to
Oh,
humans, to everybody. Yeah.
oh.
And of course they are,
I'm
they're
trying
just,
to visualize where these plants are as you're telling me. I'm like, hellebore, I feel like that was in the beginning of when we were first doing the tour.
yeah, that's right. That's what they were. Good memory. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
They,
trying to visualize like when you
yeah,
telling me the plant. Well, I
they're
also did all the video clips, so I'm also it's like you know
right. Right. Yeah. But they're actually in front of they're in the there's the garage, and there's a shrub
it's near
bed
the
there.
stove.
Yeah, that's right. They were right in front of that stove, right? So at any rate, the point of it all is that it took me about 9 years
Mhm.
to to do all the ponds and streams and 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 put in all these different shrubs um, that weren't already here. The
Mhm.
big rhododendrons were already here, but
Mhm.
all the other shrubs I wound up putting in. I spent a small fortune getting the right kinds of shrubs.
Mhm.
And the other part of the problem on the North Shore of Long Island, because it was so heavily wooded, most of us, uh, it's hard to have flowers. Like I'm so wooded. For example, flowers most of them need a lot of sun.
Mhm.
So A, we don't have too many places where we get full sun,
Mhm.
and B, with deer, certain flowers, for example, like we couldn't have a tulip on my
They,
property.
they love to eat those, right?
Yeah, as far as deer are concerned, tulips are like M&Ms to kids. In other words, it's
That's
like
so
they just,
funny.
they gobble them up, man. They see it. We used to go out and you see the stalks. You wouldn't see any more tulips.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
also, they
Funny.
also, yeah, also we had certain kinds of daylilies. Now, daylilies, the common daylilies are yellow, and they're all over you see them all over the streets and the roads on Long Island.
Mhm.
But the deer on our property are very discriminating. They're
Oh,
very
really?
they would know they wouldn't eat those. We used to spend a small fortune on special kinds of daylilies with they were hybrids and things like that, and they were expensive per plant. And the deer said, "Oh, we like those."
Oh, really?
Yeah. And what then they would do with the little monsters, they would go out, and when they were starting to bloom, they wouldn't eat the whole flower. They'd bite half of it off. And then so now when you look at the flower as it's starting to bloom, it's a stunted little half
Why would it
flower.
only eat half? That's funny.
Well, yeah, I listen, you have to ask the deer, Linda, because I don't know. I don't know.
Funny it did. I would want to just chop off the whole top of it, right?
I know. So yeah, so I have to tell you that. But when I think I sent you the blurb. I don't know if did I ever send you the blurb for the garden catalog? Uh,
No, no.
yeah, I have to see if I can remember this. I thought I sent it to you, but in the catalog, I described the
Oh, yeah.
surrounding.
Yeah. I think you mentioned that you were going to send it to me.
Yeah, that's right, and I forgot. Probably I was so tired the next day.
Yeah. I mean, you were busy.
Well, I had over 60 people here on Sunday, and and
Oh,
they
wow.
nonstop from 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was like a parade here, and I enjoy it. It's fun, but I'm starting to realize that I've gotten to the point where my body can't take it anymore.
Well, maybe
Between my
you can't do two tours in 2 days.
Well, that's true too. But at any rate, one of the things I emphasize, besides the fact that this property is deer resistant,
Mhm.
um, and you again have all those, you have four different water events, and they all have each of them makes a sound with water. But the larger ones, it's more like a little waterfalls, and then I have one for meditation where it's just a little trickle going into the,
Mhm.
and then I have a bubble or pond up top. So no matter where you go on this property,
Yeah.
there is a place where you can, and that's another thing. If you saw, there were benches all over the place,
Mhm.
okay, and so places for people to sit. I had that little cocktail area up in the front, and when you're there, you can hear the front pond waterfall. I mean, so in terms of sounds and in terms of what you see, it's all conducive uh, to relaxation, serenity,
Yes.
harmony, right? And I
Yep.
tell people when they come to this garden, if you can't find a place to sit in this garden and relax, then you need serious drugs and serious therapy.
You got
Yeah, you are so mentally screwed up or
Mhm.
emotionally screwed up that, I mean, you're probably beyond help. Okay. And I've had people come. I remember I had some colleagues from Stony Brook. One guy, they came for like a barbecue and stuff.
Yeah.
And he knew that we travel, like my wife and I would travel twice a year internationally. We've been doing it for decades.
Mhm.
And we well always went high end, five-star hotels and business class, tickets, first class, whatever. And so when he said to me, how do you leave this place? How do you, he goes, I would never want to leave. I said, what the truth? I never want to leave either, except
Mhm.
that, yeah, I want to go to Japan. Yeah, I want to go to, Southeast Asia. Yeah, I want to go to take a river cruise through Europe. I mean, I only leave for real special stuff. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Other than that, forget it. And I always tell people they're taking me out of this house toes up, man. I ain't leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not selling. That's it. We're done here. You know.
Mhm.
So, and we've been here now, I think 36, 37 years now. You
Oh,
know.
wow.
But uh when I show pictures of what the house used to look,
Oh, yeah. Do you have pictures of the backyard before?
yeah, I have. Well, here's what I've done. What happened was after a while, when the word spread about this particular landscape of ours. So I remember I gave presentations at a couple of different garden clubs, one in Patchogue, Riverhead, my own here in Shore. Um, and every time I would go to the slides, okay, I would show them what the house used to look like, front and back,
Mhm.
from the mid '80s when we bought it.
Yeah.
And then I show them the same spot and how I changed it and what it looks like now. They literally gasp. They gasp when they see
Oh
the
my
change.
God, that's gonna be amazing. I can add it into this edit.
Well, yeah. I mean, but it's just shocking how different it is. And again, it was fine. It was nice. It was pretty. The original, what they
Yeah.
had the original, but again, fussy and uh, the usual thing. I mean, one of the things about Americans, I have to say, they tend they're kind of almost trained to be conformists about a lot of stuff.
Yes,
Okay.
totally, totally.
Yeah.
You always
And,
want to do, oh, and like the front of your house, like as soon as one neighbor does something, you're like, oh, okay, I guess we'll do the same thing, and then you end
well,
up,
no, I think it was you who noticed. I had the Belgian
yeah,
block,
it was, yeah.
and so we put in normally with these houses they had just a regular concrete
Hmm.
opening to get into your driveway. Then after that it was either tarmac, or it was gravel, whatever. So my wife, because she's Mrs. Style, you know, she decided, you know what, I want to have a Belgian block
Hmm.
entryway. I don't want to just have the concrete.
Yeah.
So when we put Belgian block along our driveway, because I never had it before. So we
Yep.
had two lines of Belgian block. Oh, it's 160 feet each line, but down to the house. And then they made this Belgian block apron.
Hmm.
Well, a year later, one of my neighbors copied it,
Yep.
and then after that, another one copied it, and out of the two of them, only one admitted that he saw it and copied it and imitated it because
Well,
it
I
looked.
mean, literally, when I first drove there, that's the first thing I noticed. I saw your mailbox number, and then I saw the blocks, and I'm like, mm, do I drive down? Because it stops you for a second to like,
Right.
oh, is a car supposed to drive down there?
Yeah, right, right,
And
right.
I was like, oh, that's cute, because then it makes it feel like cute and cozy, and
Sure.
then like, oh, okay, and then I drove down.
And then of course people freak out with our driveway because it's so steep going down.
Hmm. Hmm.
But anyway, so I guess the issue here, okay, is the fact that we wanted it to be I wanted it to be very natural. See, my wife wanted she still wanted grass, and I said no, 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 because she
Hmm.
came from an area in Oyster Bay,
Hmm.
where everybody, ticky tacky little houses, beautiful home, and they were expensive and beautiful. It was Oyster Bay, but there was a singer, a folk singer named Malvina Reynolds, way back in the early '60s, did a song called "Ticky Tacky Little Houses" or something like that, and talking about conformity in the United States. And I've always been against conformity because that's how I.
No, you?
But yeah, but you see, Linda, let me just tell you. I think it was the poet Wordsworth. I think, yeah, Wordsworth. He made a comment about how the child is father to the man, with a capital C, capital F for father. And certainly, another adage would be similar to that would be, as the twig is bent, so grows a tree. Things like that. And I, from my very, very youngest days, I was always teachers would say to me, and not it wasn't a compliment. It would say, "Well, you're really iconoclastic. Okay, you really are. You're doing things differently. You're saying different things, and you're. I was never a guy who wanted to conform to what everybody else was doing, and
Well, that's
I took
great.
some hits. Yeah, and I took some hits for that.
Hmm.
So, but I was okay.
A lot of hits.
Yeah. So the fact is that this property is very distinctive. Okay.
Hmm.
And when people come to it, they just are they're thankfully they really like it, and they're astonished by it because they come down the driveway and they see what's going on. They never expected it to be what it is. You know.
Yeah, I feel like it was really fun because I mean the driveway brings you into the
Right.
house, and then as I was taking the tour, there's so many areas to walk up, walk around, and then you go here, you go there. So it was like a bit of a magical place to go, and the water fountain, like I love water, so I love
Right.
fountains and streams, and
Right.
then I love fishes. Like your fishes look like the fishes that I have.
Right.
Like I have a 50-gallon tank at home.
Uh-huh.
And, I mean, your garden was super inspiring because I ever since I got let go, I started gardening more. And I
Uh-huh.
really found my zen last year.
Sure.
And I was posting it on Facebook where, that's my favorite thing to do. After the kids go off to school, I make a cup of coffee and I would just sit outside next to my flowers
Sure.
and, my tiny little, like, so I have like a side of my house that I can do something and then the back. And so it's really small, but I just did a small little area and put some,
Yeah.
plants and stuff. And
And I'll tell you, see that also too. This because of the we most people around here have pretty decent size, like they all have over an acre and stuff.
mm,
It's pretty quiet. I mean, you'll hear some nip with a lawnmower,
oh,
like
the
like
lawnmower.
on the weekends. See, look, I'm retired, so it's really quiet here Monday through Friday, really. But
Mhm.
then Saturday and Sunday, they're out there with their lawnmowers, their
The
leaf
weed
blowers. And
whackers.
yeah, really. But you know
Mhm.
what? I get out of 7 days, I get five really wonderful, quiet,
Quiet.
tranquil. Yeah, and so and it's also interesting too is when workmen come here, like
Mhm.
anytime they have to. I remember when they would we had the outside of the house painted, and there was actually staining it, we have different workmen come for various things.
Mhm.
They love it when they come, like especially if they're working outside,
Mhm.
like electricians, and they're putting lines in, whatever. They just go, "My God, it's so nice here. It's peaceful." And uh, we in fact we have there's a guy who drives for UPS, and uh, and he's about 6'2" or whatever. And so he came one day, and he's been coming. He comes fairly regularly, for packages. So one day he's standing out there. He's standing out by the front pond and stream,
Mhm.
and I didn't know he was there. I was in the backyard. I walked around and I saw him standing there, and he kind of was apologizing to me as I walked up to him. He goes, "I hope you don't mind." He said, I'm just, I really like, I really like this." I said, "I just wanted to stand here for a little bit." I said, "Hey, that's what it's for.
Mhm.
You're welcome to spend as much time as you. There's a bench right in front of that waterfall. Sit
Yeah.
down, take a break. But look, as long as you delivered my packages, I don't care if you go anyplace else." you know.
Like you can sit and relax, just.
But I think that's the thing I'm most proud of is that people, when they come, they're astonished, and they get it right away. My God, this is so
Mhm.
tranquil. This is so
Yeah.
peaceful.
Yeah.
It's so relaxing. That's the
Yeah.
key.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, it's funny. Like that's how I was doing when I started my Airbnb. I had went to Atlanta and stayed at a really, really nice one where it was so peaceful and zen and designed so nicely that I just loved the way she did it. And
Yeah,
it inspired me. I'm like, okay, if I do an Airbnb, I want to create that same type of energy,
sure.
and that's what I do with my Airbnb. Like the touches that I do, the little pieces of art, and everything's matching, and
All
it's
right.
zen. And I put a little zen garden outside with some chairs, and so when I would get people who would stay, they would leave me amazing feedback. They're like, "Wow, thank you so much for your cozy Airbnb." Like the energy that they felt of
Uh-huh.
what I put into it, they
Yep.
felt the same thing, and they're like, "It was so relaxing. The bed was amazing, the garden, and
Sure.
everything." So it's kind of that beautiful, you know.
Yeah, and I think that this is something too that people don't necessarily. I don't know whether it's because of the kinds of jobs they have, or whether it's because of kinds of maybe upbringing. There's a certain turmoil in a lot of people. Look, I'm luckier than most. I admit it. But there's so many people I meet. There's such an amount of turmoil and chaos in their lives.
Yes, yes. Well, I
And
come from that, so I totally understand.
yeah, I know, and it's funny because I just think that, and again, part of my thing too is, remember, all of my avocations in my life have all been outdoors, surfing. To be out. I surfed so many times where I was almost the only guy out in the early mornings,
Mhm.
just me and the waves and occasional fish jumping, and I'd see I had like these what do you call this? Whales would go by,
Mhm.
um, because people don't realize there were a lot of whales on off Long Island.
Mhm.
Also, like my horse and riding through the woods,
Yeah, so
and I
you've
used,
always been in touch with nature.
yeah, and I think that was my thing when I finally moved here. I said, you know what, I really don't like all this, fussy gardening stuff. Okay, and I will be honest with you, I am not really a gardener. Okay, now, I know diddly squat about flowers.
Mhm.
I admit it. I know more about shrubs because I had to think about them in terms of what I was going to put in here. And it's that. I mean, I don't particularly care to be digging in the ground. So now some people love it. I know the people in my garden club, most of the women, that's what they do. They just love it. Yeah. Oh yeah, planting tulips. I'm putting in some clematis, and I'm
Well, because
thinking,
they want to manicure it and mold it to
yeah,
what
yeah,
they want.
yes, and they want pretty flowers and things like that. Yeah. Now my wife's like that. My wife, if anyone's going to plant a flower on this property, it's going to be my wife.
Yeah.
And yet she knows she has to put flowers in boxes, and she put like she does. If you saw them, she had these does these little settings, if you will, and they're hanging on a fence or on a
Mhm.
tree or
Yeah, but
whatever.
won't the deer come get it
Well,
anyway?
yes, but that's the other part. I was just going to say that to you. What she has to do is use flowers that deer don't eat. Like I don't think they eat marigolds.
Oh,
They
okay.
don't eat. There's certain they don't eat. For example, daffodils. You know,
Oh.
and there are certain flowers they just don't eat. They don't like.
Hmm.
But the ones they do. But you can't, like I said, you can't have tulips here.
Whoops.
You can't have pansies here. They eat pansies.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Pansies are like huge everywhere.
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff that people would normally have for flowers, we don't have. And that's the other issue that
Mhm.
we don't have a lot of color here. See,
Mhm.
like most people who plant flowers, there's plenty. All of a sudden, like plant through the season. So like the first things that usually come up or daffodils. So you have daffodils in the early spring, and as
Yeah.
time goes on, they'll be having, okay, tulips are coming up, and their roses come out, and all kinds of stuff. We only get um, color around this time of the year, May.
Hmm.
It starts around the middle of May
Hmm.
and to maybe the middle of June, and then
Yeah.
all the
So
big
did more
rhododendrons.
flowers start coming out from those trees?
Well, I'm saying that the big rhododendrons, they are best around this time between
Mhm.
was it around Mother's Day to Memorial Day weekend. Okay, that's that area, and then those are those particular plants. But then others bloom sooner, like the hellebore bloom in pretty much early March, late, and then it depends on the plant. But what I'm saying is we don't have much color here. So now, that's the other part of the plan is, so then what am I looking for with all this green? Most of the stuff that we have here is evergreen. The only thing that lose the leaves are our big trees, the oak trees and the other big trees, right? But in terms of our shrubs, everything's pretty much evergreen. So when you come down our driveway in the middle of February, it
Hmm.
doesn't look like it's the middle of winter and it's barren and it's bare and it's
Yeah.
depressing. It's
Yeah.
not.
That's good.
Um, so that's another plus. But the other part of it is, since everything is mostly green, now the issue is, okay, what shades of green can I get? Can I
Yeah.
get different shades of green?
Mhm.
Also, what textures of what shrubs, as
Mhm.
opposed to some have smoother leaves, some are a little. I know I have a couple of like hollies and stuff,
And then
and
you have those ferns that have a little bit color on them.
oh, and then the ferns, that's another thing. We have so many different, we're big on ostrich ferns that are tend to be light green to a, medium sized green. They get tall. We have the
Yeah,
Japanese.
the Japanese painted ferns, I think it
Oh,
is.
yeah, I love those. The Japanese painted ferns because sometimes they look grayish, sometimes they look
Mhm.
greenish,
See, I
and then
remember.
yeah, but here's the other part of it. See, there's the other part of most of the plants that I'm talking about, like those
Mhm.
ferns, they self-propagate. Okay.
I know, I love that. That is the key word for the gardening. It's self-propagating.
That's right, because also first of all, things get the areas that they're in get more of them. This gets thicker and thicker and
Yeah,
thicker. Okay,
that's amazing.
yeah,
And you don't spend more money.
and what's just going to say that you beat me to it is that now I'm not going out and spending a fortune buying
Exactly.
plants. Okay, I mean, and try to find. I mean, some of these plants are expensive if you go to start and buy them, and now Mother Nature's giving me, dozens upon dozens more each season
Hmm.
for free. You know what I mean? So
That's
I mean, I
always a
have a
key
whole
word.
list of plants that are self-propagating.
Hmm.
The Pachysandra, the
I
hell.
mean, I've always learned great words in your class, so it's continuing.
I was always big on propagating self or whatever. But anyway, the issue really is that it's part of what makes it a pleasant place to be, and also for me as the world's laziest man, it makes it, well, I always tell people when they come to the tours, I said, look, because they say, well, wow, you know, this must be a lot of work. I said, actually, it's not. Okay.
Hmm.
I said, because I don't have a lawn to mow. I don't have to do these plants, these shrubs don't require a lot of pruning all the time.
Hmm.
I said, I have up in my study, I've got this trophy and it says, world's laziest man. I
Hmm.
started to giggle. And I said, my biggest fear is that somebody is going to be lazier than I am and take it away from me. I have to give up that trophy. And this is true. One of my favorite things to do, and I always tell these garden guests, is my neighbors all around me. They have, especially one to my left. He's always up there mowing his lawn.
Oh,
So I go up. So what do? I go up, and usually, just to tweak them, I go up and I have a martini glass in my hand.
really?
Yeah. Now mostly I have it empty because I can't get up to my hill with it.
Oh, okay.
But he sees it, and I'm toasting him from a distance, like, hey, right on, brother, keep mowing your lawn. you know. So
Rubbing it in, just rubbing it in.
yeah, yeah, but look, yeah, okay. Everybody makes choices, different strokes for different folks. But I do have to say, I do, and it's the reason why I do these garden tours every season, is I do proselytize against lawns, against heavy. I don't. By the way, I haven't turned my sprinkler system on.
Hmm.
I mean, usually around here, the gardeners put their sprinkler systems on from April 1st to November 1st.
And you don't have to.
Well, I haven't turned it on yet. Oh, now, okay, partly because we had a very wet, cool spring, so
Yeah.
that's part. But I
Yeah.
mean, even when it's not in past years, most of these plants and trees are so well established, they don't need a lot of water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Need a lot of water.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, that's one of the things I started teaching my kids as we do our garden. I was like, we need to look for perennials that will
Right.
come back every year.
Sure.
And then we also bought also some things that we like to eat that the kids like to eat. So I bought like, I mean, I just bought them last year. So I bought a lemon tree, a
Oh,
lime
good.
tree.
Right. Right.
I bought like blueberry bush, some other things, but I was like, well, I might as well plant things that the kids like to eat and let's see if it grows. If it grows, great. If not, then we'll see, you know?
I remember my father in his house in Huntington. He had such great blueberry bushes. I
Ooh.
mean, oh, he was. I mean, my father was good with stuff like that. And I'm telling you, I used to love when those blueberries came out. They were big and
Yeah.
juicy.
I mean, like, might as well have plants that I can eat, right?
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah.
But he felt that way about my horse.
Hmm.
Uh, I if I told you the story. I had my horse, and the, I guess I forget what year it was, but all of a sudden beef prices were sky high.
Oh, yeah. I think I remember. Yeah.
All right. And he'd always like he'd say, so you coming over to dinner this weekend? I'd say, yeah, well, yeah. Mom said she wanted me to come over for like Sunday dinner. He
Mhm.
said, are you gonna bring your horse? And with the twinkle in his eye, like, okay, because I'm serving that horse up.
Oh
That's it.
my God. So who paid for the horse? Your parents paid for the horse or
I
you paid?
paid for. What do you mean, parent? I paid for the horse.
Oh,
What
you
do you
paid for the horse yourself?
Yeah, of
Wow.
course. I bought that horse. I was 20, I guess 22-ish.
Hmm.
And I kept that horse for 10 years. When I met Ronnie, I was 32.
Yeah.
And I
You
was
have all your surfing money that you
no,
accumulated?
no, 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 no. I never made that much money with surfing. I
Oh,
just no,
okay.
I was
Yeah.
teaching, and I had some bucks, and I said, okay, fine. And I always tell the story now. And by the way, Ronnie, to her credit, sh I used to take her. We used to ride double. We'd take her through the woods and this,
Yeah.
and she was really good. Okay, and she never once said to me. So when we were gonna get about to get married, I said, I better sell. I'm gonna sell a horse because I was already at a point where I said, okay, uh, I unless I was gonna have a horse, uh, I was gonna have a real horse property, which at the time I wasn't
Hmm.
ready, willing, and able to do. Uh, it was getting expensive. That's fine, but also I wanted to find him a good home,
Hmm.
and I found a nice lawyer who wanted to buy him and stuff like that. And but I was ready. Like I'm funny with certain things. There comes a point, like just how I made a decision to sell my boat after 30 years, whatever it was.
Hmm.
Um, I made it. I'm into something, and once I've gotten good at it and done it, and
Once you mastered it.
yeah, what happens is I get a little. I don't want to say bored, but if I
I
have
think
to go,
yeah, you want a new challenge.
yeah, I think that's what it is. And so I just said, okay, been there, done that, and let me move on to something else. And that's how I got into the boating and fishing. I always like to tell people, well, in Ronnie's, dictionary, horse rhymes with divorce.
You should
And
really say that.
no, I said it actually. In fact, she never said a word to me about it. You need to sell this
And
horse.
your wife is the sweetest, nicest person I've met. Even though
No,
she like to say things that she's Nurse Ratchet.
no, I don't want you. I don't want to hear you say nice things about her. No, then she'll be even
It
more
was
impossible to live
she
with.
was so kind to me when I was there.
Well, she liked you. Now, me, I'm another story. She doesn't like me now. After 45 years,
She
she doesn't
lived with
like me
you.
as
She,
much.
it's a difference when you lived with someone.
That's right. That's right. You know that.
Yep.
So anyway, I guess we're coming near the end. I have really
Yes,
much.
we're coming to the end, but I also wanted to tell you about the videos, the little shorts that I had put up.
Uh-huh.
So remember, I was putting up videos as I was driving home.
Uh-huh.
So I took clips of everything. So I want to tell you one of the clips that I took got 7,300 views.
What?
That,
What?
yeah. And you don't want to know which video that was?
No.
It was the video that your wife was showing me of your mom's photo.
Really? I
Yeah,
didn't see that. I didn't wait. I didn't see that one.
it's there. So it's I wrote Schiavo's mom, and then your wife was showing me a picture about your mom, and she was wearing that suit, and I said, "Wow, she's fully put together." And your wife started saying, "Yeah, like she every time she will come here," and then the video cuts off. That video got the most views I've ever gotten on YouTube. 7,300 for that video. For that 15-second
What
short.
the heck is that about?
You don't I have no idea the see YouTube is weird and the algorithms and what people click. So I literally put up probably over 50 shorts that weekend.
Okay, wow. Okay.
From Saturday, Sunday to Monday, I put up 50 shorts of everything that we talked about.
Uh-huh.
And out of all those 50, I guess maybe YouTube was like, oh, Linda's busy. Let's try to help her and push one of her videos out. So it's whatever YouTube decides to take and push it out. And if people like it, they'll watch it.
Wow.
If they don't, they'll just scroll past it.
But they don't, but
That,
that's not something that they're subscribing to though.
no, this is just a
Okay.
short.
Okay.
But if they do like it, then they can subscribe.
Right.
So
Well,
that
that's
got 7,300 and also 250 thumbs up.
what is the, I'm shocked by that. Now wait a second. Now when I looked at them, you didn't send that clip to me though. I didn't see that
Um,
clip.
let me see. Let me see if it's in there. Let me see if I have it in the playlist.
Well,
It's in
I
the
would have
playlist. It's in the Captain Willie Woodslands Garden and more.
really.
Yeah, it's in there.
I have to.
I might
I'll
have
have to.
added it. Maybe I added it later, but it's in
Yeah, I
there.
think you did. I think you did. Because I didn't see it. All the ones I saw were mostly all. And now, obviously, that was indoors. All the other ones were outdoors.
Yeah, all the other ones. Well, there's other ones indoor. When I was in the office, there's a
Uh-huh.
Ronnie's photo that you showed me that got 244 views.
Uh-huh.
Let me tell you some other ones that got a lot of views. Some outside ones got 241,
You said
and
2041?
200,
Oh, okay.
240,
200.
242. It's one of the videos got. Another one got 405 views, 7 thumbs up.
Wow. Wow. That's very cool.
700, like I put a lot. So another one got 728 views, six thumbs up. So
7,300. That's crazy.
it is crazy. The most I ever got on one of my videos, it's funny. Like one of my videos I randomly did, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start videotaping me cleaning the Airbnb.
Right.
That video got over 1,000. I was like, I'm like with a hat on, just woke up in the morning. I'm gonna
Right.
clean my Airbnb, and I
Right.
just recorded it. And I said, you know what? I'm just gonna record. So that one got 1,000, and another one I was literally clean. I was wiping the carpet. I was like, look at this mess. The room was so messy, I had to record it. So I was like, look, this is what I'm doing too. I'm wiping the carpet.
All right.
That one got like,
Now wait, stop. And you're telling me that you did this with all your clothes on. You weren't naked or
yeah,
anything.
I had my clothes, I had like clothes, and I had like over like I think another 1,000 something on that one.
Right.
And
Right.
another one, I was giving a tip on how to make your room smell good with Airbnb. I'm like, take your fabric
Right.
softener, put it in your garbage can.
Right.
That got like 3,000 views, and I was like,
That's a
none of
riot.
that makes sense. So
Well,
you never
okay.
know. That's why now, like, you just put up whatever and see what happens.
Okay. Well, you have to send me that clip that everybody, so I can show it to Ronnie because she's going.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I know. Another one got like 527. I didn't take too many videos of Ronnie because I didn't know if she was okay with me videotaping her.
Uh, I don't know either, frankly.
I don't know. I don't know. So there are two videos
Because
of
you
her.
have to, yeah, you have to understand that Ronnie, whenever she goes out in public, she gets all dolled up, and she's puts her face on, and
Well, that's what I mean. There's two videos of her in it. One where we're cheersing, and one where she's showing me the photo. So
what was the first one? One when she's doing what?
when we're take cheersing the glass
Oh, right.
wine.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
she is in two. If she doesn't like it, I can take it down.
No, no, no. It's well, that's a very pleasant, I have to say, shocking surprise.
I know. So that's what I wanted to tell you. I was like,
But
no, let
by
me
the yeah, but that
let me
picture,
tell you when I get on Airbnb. When we get
okay, but that picture was the one where my mother's she was in her like a that was the one that was after Easter Sunday
Yep.
at church, and she was making homemade ravioli.
Yes. Yes.
Right, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I tell you, what my mother, I can't do it. But she was able, like all dressed up, okay,
Hmm.
and she'd make fresh pasta, okay,
All
and
dressed up.
yeah, because it was like that was the big thing, in her house. It was fun. She was rigid about certain kinds of rules.
Yeah.
So the whole idea was that you were fasting before Easter, like for
Oh.
40 days, and certain foods like you weren't supposed to have because they were too indulgent, really. And fresh ravioli, in our house, we would just wait for Easter time because she'd make, the fresh ravioli. Now she could have made it other times, but but
Hmm.
anyway, but that time she's at our we were living in a condo at the time. She comes in, she's dressed up, she's put together. She was a real because she was always an office manager. She was always used to being in business, and like she was an office manager of
Hmm.
a law firm. Actually, in Manhattan, Javits and Javits law firm was a big time law term.
Familiar.
Yeah, well, you know why? Because one of the Javits brothers was the New York State senator for many many years.
Oh.
His brother and nephew had the practice, and she was
Uh-huh.
their office manager for years. So she was used to getting all dolled up and being professional and everything else. So she was dressed like that, coming back from church on Easter Sunday, and decides, okay, she's going to knock out this ravioli.
Hmm.
And Ronnie was always just amazed that she could do this and not get flour all over her clothes,
Wow.
all over the floor. Now, me,
Yeah.
when I make fresh pasta, okay, because I
Yeah.
make fresh pasta too.
Yeah. Tried
I,
making pasta too, and it's all over the place.
yeah, thank you. I mean, it's all over my clothes. It's all
Yeah.
over the floor. It's up on
Yeah.
the ceiling.
Yeah, it's
Ronnie's
everywhere.
going, yeah. She goes, you're such a slob.
I need
She
a
goes,
lesson on how to make good homemade pasta because I keep trying and it's too tough.
okay. Well, first of all, you can't if you shouldn't be kneading it too much. The more you knead it, the tougher it gets.
Oh,
A,
that's why.
yeah.
Because
That's
the
one
kids
point.
like to play with it and like use it like
Plus,
Play-Doh.
plus with the fresh pasta, the way I learned to make it was, uh, we make it in like they call it il pozzo. It's like you make a well out of the
Yeah.
flour,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And then you crack your eggs into that well,
Mhm.
and then the issue is you're going to use just enough eggs to keep that flour together.
Okay.
Okay. In other words, so when you mix it all, then you mix it up with your hands. All
Yeah.
right.
But
But you
gently.
just yeah, and then but the key there is too. Italians don't in the old country especially, they don't get fat eating all that pasta. Why? Because most of the pasta it's made with egg. It's just eggs and flour. So there's a high level of protein and a low level of carbs as a consequence. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
And the proof of that is when you take the fresh pasta, okay,
Yeah.
and you throw it into a boiling pot of hot water,
Hmm.
within a minute to 2 minutes, it floats to the top. It's done.
Yeah,
As
because if
opposed to
it's
like dry.
mostly egg, it should just cook really fast.
That's exactly right. So when
Oh,
you put in say you put in a pound of dry pasta,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
going to cook. It's got to cook 10, 12
It's
minutes.
gonna cook so long. It takes forever.
Yeah, because
It's
yes,
too
because
dense.
it's
Too dense.
yeah, it's very dense and it's high. It's highly, it's high in carbs. But and so one of the things I do, I don't do it as much as I should because again, I'm so sloppy. Is for people who have to worry about carb intake for cholesterol and or diabetes and stuff, they should be having a lot of homemade pasta. Okay, because
Yes. Now I'm gonna have to try this again because we
yes,
keep doing it, but I think that's the problem is the too much kneading. Because I let the kids play with it and make it, and they just keep kneading it.
yeah, I'm sure that's part of the problem. You
That's
know,
definitely it. Okay.
I I I I just I just put it to it's like I get it so that just when all the flour is used,
Mm-hmm.
like everything else, I'll make a ball out of it and then I'll slice it, and then I'll put it through the machine, to make the pasta. But
Do you
yeah,
let it rest, or you just after you
I
knead
let
it?
it I let it rest. I don't let it rest too long. I mean, actually, too, what I noticed too is like that when if you don't let it rest when you run it through the machine, okay, sometimes it'll be too sticky because it needs to be a little drier so that it can, run through. My mother, now that's another thing too. She used to have, she didn't use a machine when I was a kid. She used what they call in Italian a guitarra, which is really means guitar. And it was a rectangular, like a rectangular apparatus, and it had, like guitar strings across it. And then
Mhm.
what you would do is you take, she'd roll out the flour
Mhm.
and make a nice, like a sheet of flour, and then put that sheet on top of that guitar, and then she'd roll it, and then of course it would cut the pasta into spaghetti or fettuccine, depending on how wide you made the strings, and that's how
Oh,
she did it. That was the old way, and then it had a sliding plate, metal plate, where once you all the pasta was cut, she would pull it out, and then she could throw it into the pot.
oh, so
Yeah.
she would roll it out flat and then put it on and it would cut it.
Then she take a rolling pin and then roll it out on that machine on that guitar.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
interesting.
really cool. I used to really love it when I was a kid.
That's really cool.
All right. So meanwhile, you look. So I digressed off the gardens. Then we talked about making homemade pasta. Okay, but I
Well, that
have to say,
see that what I mean? Like we go from one thing to the other
I know.
because it was the photo. It was the photos. The 7th hour. See, your mom would be happy. Her photo.
Oh, I'm going to tell you. Where did I tell Ronnie? But I mean, it's funny because it is true. That's one of her favorite pictures of my mother.
Well,
That was my mother when she must have been, I'm trying to think now, she must have been in her 60s about
mhm,
at that
mhm.
point. Okay. Because we were. But that's a story now. Well, listen, all right. This was great fun. And,
Okay, great,
you know,
great chatting with you, and I'll see you
we
next
talked
time.
about two of my favorite things, Zen gardening and fresh pasta. Come on.
I
What's wrong with
know, I love it. Okay, I'll talk to you next time. Bye.
that? Okay. Take care, babe.
I set up and do up
So
and
you get a lot of people coming.
yeah, like when I started it last June, I had almost every day booked.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, why? What do you have near you that Why,
I have
why
this
do people want?
amazing place called Manhattan.
Oh, okay. Fine. Yeah.
I'm just
What,
trying to fix my sound.
what was I thinking?
I know. What are you thinking?